with dumb take people today. And this is what I say. How in the world would you ever think Joel Embiid could lead you to a championship when Jabbar couldn't? He needed Oscar and he needed Magic. I mean, he's a 2. There's only one center next to Russell that led a team to an NBA championship. That's Olajuwon. And I would say, what makes people think, and that's what the conversation is going on in Philly right now with Joel Embiid, what is the future with Philadelphia and what happened with that Knicks team last night? I love that series. And by the way, I love they're playing and they're letting the players play. Let's talk to our friend, Hall of Famer, one of the top 20 players in the history of the sport, is our friend Rick Barry. Rick, how you doing, my friend?
Well, if I was doing any better, I'd be making a comeback in the NBA.
You look great, my friend. Rick, I just laid it out for you here. There's a lot of conversation. We're based in Philly. Give me your takeaway with Joel Embiid. I know you're a fan of his.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he wasn't hurt, they probably got a good chance of winning this series. I mean, you know, he wasn't 100%, obviously. He had to sit out a bunch in that one first game. He's coming back from injury, and then he hurt himself a little bit, and he was nowhere near 100%. And they gave him a heck of a run. I mean, they let him off the hook yesterday. They had a chance to win that game and let it slip through their fingers. And credit to the Knicks on the road for doing what they did. But Brunson has really turned into a hell of a player. I mean, he's kind of fun to watch. Really, he's good. I mean, he can shoot the three. He finds a way to get to the basket. He sees the floor. He's become a hell of a basketball player. No question about that. And I guess for the sport of basketball, it's great to have the Knicks, you know, creating some excitement for the first time in ages. It's going to be a very, very interesting series to see what happens. This is a rivalry that's gone back many times. When Reggie Miller was still playing, you know, all the stuff going on with Spike Lee, you know, yelling at Reggie on the court, all that stuff. You remember all of that. So Pacers Knicks should be interesting. I think certainly Minnesota and Denver is going to be a hell of an interesting series as well. They've been some very competitive playoff games, but then of course, then they all of a sudden they throw one of these monkey wrenches in there, and then a team goes and gets beat so badly. It's like, what the hell happened? These guys forgot to show up and play a game. I mean, it's been really nutty to see. I will disagree with you on one thing. You say that they're letting them play. Here's the deal. Letting them play is one thing, but letting it become overly physical is another. To me, and I've talked to David Stern, God rest his soul, about this when he was the commissioner many, many times, and I've spoken to Adam Silver about it on occasion. Why in the world do you want to let the game in the playoffs become a real physical game? Because it doesn't take skill and talent and ability to be physical. It's giving an advantage to the less skilled player when you allow that to happen. And I'm not a fan of it. I'm absolutely not a fan of it whatsoever. I said, show me the new rule book that we're playing by, okay? I mean, why? It's not a different rule book. It's the same rule book. So why should the rules be interpreted differently in the playoffs? And even the players, oh, it's playoff basketball. Well, what the hell is playoff basketball? Mugging on the street? I mean, seriously. I mean, the skill, you're taking the skill out of the game by letting it become overly physical.
Rick, why would they have such a direct change then in philosophy like that? Is it that the league is looking at too many ticky-tack fouls before and they just don't like that the fans have not tuned into it? Because now the ratings are going up, Rick. I mean, the ratings, people are watching this stuff now. I'm not saying go back to 80s basketball where you had the Rick Mahorns and such like that, but the ratings are showing people are watching more of it now.
Yeah, that's because the games have been competitive and they've been close because you really have parity around. There's not any super dominant team that's out
Rick,
there.
do you think that the physicality is making the parity, or that's what's happened here? The physicality is making the parity, not really the skill.
I think the physicality is negating some of the skill. It takes a little bit away from it because it's much more difficult to be able to do the things that you're capable of doing if somebody's allowed to grab and hold and push and shove you. It makes it much more difficult. I mean, that's why just look at some of the players when it comes to their regular season statistics and look at what their stats are in the playoffs. For a lot of players, it's hard even to maintain the same level of performance that you had during the regular season. And what you have to do in the playoffs to even maintain it, you've got to even play better than you played to maintain the skill, you know, the level that you had statistically. And if you can improve on it, well, now you're really doing something. But that's what great players have to find a way to do. And it means having to really stay focused and being able to get into it. But my God, I mean, And he said, I've been there. I know what it's like. It's just no fun to be able to play the game. And here's the other thing that's allowing and why it's happening. So even with the physicality, they're also not calling the game according to the rule book when it comes to traveling, carrying the basketball, moving screens. And so the offense is getting a lot of additional things that they can do to counter the physicality that they're letting take place. I mean, there's some of the plays that they go in there and there's just, I mean, two guys crash into one another and the whistle isn't blown. I'm sorry. I mean, somebody got fouled. It was either had to be an offensive foul or it had to be a blocking foul. It's not a no call. And so I just wish that they would stop this. And I watched just this and he said to my wife, honey, look, the player's standing there, looking at stuff, carrying the ball on every freaking dribble. Carrying is so, I'm just thinking, what could I have done when I played if I could carry the ball like that? I mean, oh my God, you'll talk about changing direction and doing things. You can't do that without having to carry the ball the way that they do. It's incredible how much they carry the basketball. If you were, I'm going to do that one game just for fun. I'm going to take a game and break it down and chart it and see how many carries took place. It's going to be an obscene number.
How about this, Rick? What would you do if you're Commissioner Adam Silver to Pat Beverly on what happened there on the side there when he threw the ball into the stands twice?
With who?
With Beverly throwing the ball into the stands. How do you handle something like that? I mean, I've heard people even mention it could be a year suspension.
No, I mean, it's got to be a technical foul, injection from the game, and a fine. I mean, you just can't do stuff like that. You just have to, the guys have to know that you cannot step outside of the boundaries that have been set as far as conduct, your conduct on the court, and you have to pay a severe penalty. And it's the same way even with the officiating. Call the game according to the rule book. The players will adjust. And all you ask, as a player, all I ask, if you're going to call a foul on me for doing a certain thing at the beginning of the game, call it the same way for the rest of the game. Don't allow very physical contact to take place early with no foul, and then late in the game, that's a foul, or vice versa, that it's being called with no contact at all. You're calling it very closely, and then at the end, they let it get away with murder, or you get away with murder early. Don't. Just be consistent in how you're going to call the game. And that's the thing that we will adjust as players. But the hardest thing to do as a player is to play the game a certain way when the fouls are being called and you know what they're calling. And then all of a sudden, late in the game, they're not calling the same way. Just be consistent with your calls. It's kind of like in baseball, the strike zone. That's another crazy thing in freaking baseball. I mean, it's like every umpire has his own strike zone. So as a batter, what the hell? How do you trying to figure that out? Well, this guy here, you got to do scouting. Well, where does he call? Got to learn every new umpire that's behind the plate what the hell this guy's going to call a strike or not. Same thing here. Okay, this guy calls this thing this way, this official, this guy doesn't. He lets that go. I mean, it gets to be ridiculous. Just be consistent as officials and referees, umpires, whatever they may be in any sport. Be consistent in your calls and call it according to the rule book.
Do the Knicks get past Indiana?
Yeah, they got a chance to get past Indiana, no question. Indiana.
Isn't Indiana a sneaky team, Rick? I mean, they seem to have a lot of depth in there. Boy, I don't know, man. How much is a series like the Sixers series take? I know they're young. There's a lot of young guys on that Knicks team. I'm not trying to give an excuse and a hall pass, but boy, man, some series like that's got to take a toll on you when you roll into a season. When you roll into a series like this against the Pacers,
take a toll on you. You don't play as many games during the course of a week as you do in the regular season. Christ, you're 30-something, 20-something years old. Why the hell should any toll on you? 45 of the 48 minutes in the game. I mean, it should take no toll on you. You got to be in shape and you got to be ready to play. So no, that should be no factor at all for these guys. I mean, you don't play, 3 games in a row and 3 nights in 3 different cities. I mean, you're getting rest in between games. I mean, come on. That everybody brings all that bullshit up. That's total bullshit.
I love it, man. Hey, Rick, what's a better matchup in your opinion for the Celtics? Cavaliers or Magic?
Cavaliers. I mean, anything. The Celtics are a better team. I mean, they shouldn't lose to anybody that they play in the next round.
When you look at that Celtic team and what Brad Stevens has done, when took over for Danny Ainge, they're just so deep now. And you know what's crazy? You move off of Kyrie Irving 2 years later, 3 years later. Look at where you are right now. Rick, that's got to be the team. And I know Denver, everyone's going to circle Denver. But, man, why do I look at Boston and go, that's the best team in the NBA right now?
Well, they are record-wise, certainly. But, of course, they're playing in the Eastern Conference, which doesn't have as many teams as the Western Conference. So you can't judge it by the record alone. But they are an outstanding team. The thing is they have not proven that come playoff time in big-time series and big-time games that their star players are going to perform at the level they need to perform at. The biggest problem for both Brown and Jalen, for Brown and for I'm going to draw a blank on his name right now, for
Tatum.
Jason Tatum. Both of those guys have a tendency to force things. You need to let the game come to you. In close games, and they did this against the Warriors, and that's why I talk so strongly about it. They had a lot of turnovers in critical situations. They're trying to make things happen that aren't necessarily there. I don't necessarily feel how well they complement one another as far as creating things for each other. I just think that they have yet to prove that they can play at the level they need to play to win a championship. Now, do they have the ability to do that? Hell yes, they do. They're incredibly talented. But they haven't shown that they can do it when it has to be done. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that responds. Now, what's a positive is they've got a lot of other guys stepping up and doing some really good things. I think, if they get Porzingis back and he's, gets healthy again and he's ready to play, that's another factor for them. They got some size, a guy that can go out and shoot the three-point shot. They've got the three-point shooters. And a lot of the other players on their team are starting to play at a higher level. And so you're right. The depth is really important for them. They can go to their bench, and their bench can be outstanding for them. But I'm still waiting to see what Tatum and Brown do in the next series coming up and moving forward.
When you look at Clippers and Mavs, I'll tell you something about that Kyrie Irving, Rick. Man, at times I watch him. The guy's a magician. I mean, the way he moves under the basket, the way he moves with the ball, his shooting ability, and then all of a sudden sometimes he evaporates into Casper the Ghost. But sometimes when you watch him, he's so electric. Clippers have a very talented roster, but that's what I always say about the Clippers. But what happens in this series, Mavs and Clippers? It's 3-2 Dallas right now, closeout game tonight.
Yeah. Dallas, I mean, first of all, other than, the Joker is unbelievable to watch. Steph Curry's fun to watch. Jokic is also fun to watch. He's pretty remarkable player. And the thing is they have another remarkable player in Kyrie Irving. And if he plays at the level that he's playing at lately, I mean, he's been doing some very spectacular things. You're absolutely right. He's almost like a little magician out there doing things. But then again, Brunson's doing the same kind of thing for the Knicks right now. I mean, he's been fantastic. So it's going to come down to which team is going to be the most consistent team defensively, playing as tough a defense as they can, because they have guys that can hurt you anytime on their own. I mean, individual players. I mean, come on. Then you go to the Clippers and you talk about the Clippers. Kawhi. I mean, he wasn't 100%. If he gets himself healthy again, I mean, because if he had been healthy, I think they could have won one of those games, and it might be 3-2 in favor of the Clippers. And so anything can happen in that one, but it's been a fun series. I mean, the matchups have been really good.
Yeah,
that have surprised me the most. And you talk about what a job GMs have done. Oklahoma City has done a hell of a job.
Number 1 seed in the West, you wouldn't know it.
Oh, there's not a chance in the world that you would have thought that they and the Timberwolves would be two of the best teams. I mean, that was a shocker. And the thing about Denver, that, to their credit as defending champions, but they're not as deep as they were last year. They lost a couple of key guys. But, God, the Joker is so good. I mean, even in that game when they lost, I mean, they lost the one game where they really never had a chance to win it. But even they got back on the 10 again. He made 3 freaking plays and passes in that game. I'm looking at that and I'm saying, oh my God. I mean, do people understand just how incredibly amazing the passes and stuff that he does and the court vision that he has, I mean, he doesn't waste any motion. He's not the greatest athlete in the world. He's not a big guy who's playing over the rim, but he doesn't waste any time or motion. He's lefty, righty, inside, spin, fake, up, go under, make the passes, shoot the mid-range, shoot the three-point shot, and just plays so freaking effortlessly. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Clyde Frazier, who was, who didn't look like he was really doing much, but then you look at the stats and you see what he did. But Joker, as a center, does it in such an incredible fashion and so entertaining. I just love watching that guy play. So it's going to be fun, and I'm going to look forward to see if Kawhi plays at the level that he needs to play at, which they're going to need, obviously. But it's tough. I mean, I would be surprised if Dallas doesn't find a way to win this with the way that they're playing right now. It's going to be difficult for the Clippers to pull that out.
I would say this to you. You bring up Jalen Brunson here. I mean, Rick, have you ever seen anything like this? And I said this earlier on the show here. I go, very few New York teams are easy to root for. They're not. This team is like underdogs, and it's underdog players. Worldwide West and that front office and those guys have done a wonderful job. I mean, have you ever seen a second-round guy elevate his game? I mean, the Mavericks quit on him. I mean, how in the world do you watch a guy like that? And how do you evaluate a guy like that when you're watching him? I'm like, 40 points, consecutive games. I mean, it's pretty remarkable to watch the way he's playing. I mean, he looks like a big-time A-plus player. Have you ever seen a second rounder do that?
There've been guys who've managed to do good. Second rounder, probably very few who have come to the level that he's come to, but that's more of a credit to him. But it's also tells you about just how NBA scouts and people on NBA teams have a difficult time evaluating talent and don't see people's abilities because they can't see the forest through the freaking trees. Guys stuck playing for coaches who have a system. They don't put the guy in a position to utilize the skills and the talent that he has. And to Brunson's credit, he didn't let that discourage him. He didn't quit on it. He kept working at the game, and he finally got someplace where a coach has turned him loose and given them the opportunity to use the skills and the talent that he has and feel comfortable out there knowing that he's got the green light. And look what he's done with it. So credit to him for that, and credit, to coach for letting him give him that freedom to do that. So it's fun to see that. See, I love greatness in everything in life. I just absolutely love great. I love watching people who are great at whatever they do. And when you see somebody out there performing at the level that he has performed recently, it's really fun to watch. And I'm happy for him. I'm not. I mean, the Knick fans were tough fans. I mean, I would have loved to have been a Knick playing there, but they decided to take Bill Bradley instead of me. But that's why a lot of big games in the Garden, because I had to prove Ned Irish wrong when he didn't draft me because he said I was too skinny and flaky. But I appreciate that. But obviously that might have been true. But obviously I could play, So
you think? Hey, Rick, what do the Suns do with Kevin Durant?
Well, Kevin Durant didn't play poorly. I mean, the guys just didn't get it done. They didn't. Here's the thing: one player doesn't win a championship. It's a team. Okay, the other play well. I mean, I didn't have a lot of big star players. I had two rookies that were unbelievable: Jamal Wilkes, who was Rookie of the Year, and then Phil Smith, who was another rookie, who were integral parts of the success that we had. And we had a lot of other journeyman players. I mean, we had a two-headed monster in Clifford Ray and George Johnson, not big name players that anybody had heard a whole lot about. And the rest of the team the same way. And then we had two veteran guys that had been around and all, Jeff Mullins and Bill Bridges. And we played as a team is supposed to play. But if it weren't for my teammates, we don't get out of the Western Conference. I mean, Game 7 against the Chicago Bulls, I sucked. I was 2 for 14 at one point. And Al Attles made the greatest coaching move of his life. He took me out of the game in the middle of the third quarter. I mean, what coach is going to take his top player out of the game in the middle of the third quarter in a Game 7 and sit me for the rest of the quarter and into the fourth quarter? We were down I think 12 or 13 points, something like that in that quarter. And I remember I was ready to go in at the end of the third quarter. I couldn't believe he didn't put me in. But, he's the coach. So when he put me in, I think we were only down by 6. So my guys did a great job without me in there of cutting the lead down to 6. And then when I came in, thank God, I played the way I wish I had played for the entire game. And that was enough to get us to the finals. So it takes a team to win. And this is the problem with some of these other teams, is that they don't have the other players who rise to the occasion when it's necessary and make the commitment on the defensive end of the floor, where it really comes down to that defense. When you hear it all the time, defense does not win championships, but you can't win without a good defense, because you still have to outscore the opponent. And defense doesn't necessarily score a lot of points. You might on a steal or something else. It helps to ignite your offense, but you still have to beat a team with your offense. So you have to be a good defensive team. And there's very few times in the history of the NBA that a team outside of the top 10 in defense has ever won a championship title. Maybe one, two, maybe, but they're not at the bottom of it, because if you're a bad defensive team, you'll never win a championship. So that's going to be the key for these guys coming now in these next series. Who's going to play the really toughest defense, and what players are going to rise to the occasion should one of their key players be struggling some and having a tough time?
The Lakers. I mean, it's easy to blame Darvin Ham. He took the team to the finals last year, and all of a sudden now it's his fault. And I'm like, it's funny. I mean, all I listened to was AD talk about how shitty the coaching was. And I'm like, well, you weren't complaining last year. It just seems to me sometimes, Rick, unlike you just talking about Adels taking you out in a game 7, here's a guy here that's throwing shade to cover his ineptness sometimes, inabilities in big moments. And I say this to you too, Rick. Some players put up big numbers, but not winning numbers. You can look at LeBron James. LeBron puts up gigantic numbers. Every year you look at it and you go, okay, like this year, 28-14, 28-13. Sure. But Rick, they're not winning numbers. I mean, they're just not winning numbers.
But it's not just LeBron and it's not just Davis. It's the team. This is what I'm sure people have to understand. It's a team sport. One or two players, and people have tried this all the time. It hasn't.
So you think it's the way the Lakers are constructed?
They obviously don't have all the personnel necessary to be able to go and overcome the fact that they are inconsistent, is what they are. They could have, they had a chance to win some of those games. They got some leads, but then they lose those leads. And this is the thing about Denver that I like. Denver will get behind and all, but Denver seems to play better when they get behind. They have confidence in themselves to get back into games. They don't quit. They don't give up. They're very resilient. And they just methodically go about doing the right things to help get themselves back into a basketball game. And this is what you have to be able to do to be a great team. I mean, I look at it even like my son Kenyon, who's on the Olympic team, 3x3. I'm so excited about that for him.
Congratulations, Rick.
Thank you. They just played in the first World Tour 3x3 event over in Japan. They won the tournament and they beat the number 1 team in the world, Serbia. And it's miraculous that they won. But here's the thing. They showed how much confidence they have in each other, and they there's no way that they should have won. And crazy things happen. I mean, the one team, Amsterdam, they missed 4 free throws down the stretch that could have helped win the game, but they just were resilient. They bounce back. They make the play that has to be there. And then Jimmer Fredette, who's a hell of a scorer and doing stuff, hits two winning buckets late in the game. But that's the thing that has to happen with another team. And there's another guy, Dylan Travis stepped up big time in the game when Jimmer went 1 for 9 from there. It's 2-point shots instead of 3. And my son and Jimmer, my son was the leading 3-point shooter in the league last year, and the whole deal, the whole tour. Jimmer was second, right behind him. They only 46, 45%. They shot 32 and 31% in this tournament, and they found a way to win because Travis stepped up, and the other person this is what it takes. It takes a team to do it. And the teams are losing their focus at times. I mean, come on. The Knicks almost did it. They won the game, but my God, they had a 19-point lead early.
Right.
Then somebody had a 30-point lead and let it blow. I mean, it's about staying focused in what you're doing. And it's really fun to watch and see how this happens. But that's what it is. Teams lose their focus. And then little things happen. A bad break goes this way. A ball bounces the wrong way. And the next thing you know, the team is back in it. And you can't ever rest. You got to bury teams. You just don't want to give teams a chance to get back in. The talent is too.
See if we can reconnect there with Rick. Hopefully he can connect back with us here and get back with him, and we'll finish it up here. Here we go. We got him back here. There you go. There you go, Rick. Hey, Rick.
So anyway, it's fun to see. I mean, there's been a lot of really competitive, fun games. It's been fun to watch and see, who winds up coming up with the big play at the most opportune time. And that's what I'm looking forward to in the rest of the series. But if you're going to go based upon what teams have done through the regular part of the season, certainly it should be Boston and it should be Denver. But that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen.
How about this, Rick? Is that the kid that was a Gator we're talking about here? Is that the Gator kid that's on that Olympic team?
Oh, Scooter. I mean, Canyon?
Yeah. Okay, hey, I'll do my best rooting for him. Hey, hang on. Hey, let me. Hey, finally here, I do have to ask you about Caitlin Clark and what your thoughts were on her and what you thought of her and the impact that she had. I thought one of the most remarkable things I ever saw, Rick, was that the women's final had more ratings and was a higher and most watched game than the men were. I mean, I was really blown away by that, her impact. Just your takeaway on her.
Well, she's very special. I mean, she's the female Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Pretty spectacular. And, and she's going to get benefited, even though they're only paying her $70,000. She's going to be a multimillionaire thanks to Nike and all of her other sponsors. And, good for her. I mean, I know that Ice Cube had offered her $5 million to come and play in the Big Three this summer and all, but hey, when you're making that kind of money, I mean, just go about your business. I mean, yeah, it would have been fun to see what she could have done. That would have been really interesting, but she doesn't need to do that. I mean, now she can go out and try to prove herself. She's still got to prove herself on the pro level. She's done that at the college level. She was great for the game of basketball and especially women's basketball. And they sold out season tickets for the Fever in Indiana the moment she got drafted. And they have 90% of the games she'll play next season will be on television. And they're going to sell out when they go to the other arenas at all, because all these young girls and all who love basketball, they're all going to go out and want to see her play. So she's been fabulous for the game and for women's basketball in particular.
Final question for you, Rick. I never asked you this. The transition for me going from the college ranks to the pros was a pretty big leap. I didn't realize the speed, and I didn't realize how great of a technique that those players had. You can beat people in the college level with power and speed, but the technique that you play against those guys, everyone's strong, everyone's fast, everyone's great, but they have way more experience. How was that for you going from the college level? You were an All-American also in college and first-round draft choice. You go into the league. Obviously, Rick, 25 a night for your legendary career. I mean, you obviously, the game translated to your game, but was it tough for you at the beginning?
No, it was actually very easy for me, to be honest with you, because in college, the other teams are always geared to try to shut me down. They're boxing ones, triangles and twos, trying to shut me down. When I got to the pros, I said, shit, this is unbelievable. I only got one guy guarding me. I mean, I love this. This is great. And I was really prepared to play pro basketball because we played a pro style in college. We played man-to-man defense. We pushed the ball. We ran. No three-point shot. We averaged 98 points a game back in 1965.
Wow.
So it was fun. And I was really ready to go, and it was great. I had to do an adjustment after the first time around. Jerry West was very helpful with me in that and talking to me. And but yeah, no, it was actually pretty easy for me to play in the pros. And they didn't have somebody my size who had the quickness and the speed that I had. I was fast and quick. And some people are fast, some people are quick. I was fortunate enough to be quick and fast, and that's a big thing. It's very difficult to do it. And every time I hear these announcers, the defender, I said, hey, wait a second. You can lock down a shooter. You can't lock down a scorer. I was a scorer. I wasn't a great shooter. I wasn't a bad shooter. I got better, but you can't lock down a scorer. It's just impossible. And anybody that says anything other than that doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. They obviously got locked down.
Absolutely. Rick, that's funny you should say that, because Pete Rose said this, and I asked him on my program here. I go, Pete, what was it easier for you to play at the pros, or was it easier in the minors? He goes, oh my God, the minors are so hard. And I go, you're telling me the pros are easier? He goes, yeah, because I played against Seaver, I played against Carlton, and I played against Gibson. I knew what they were throwing at me. I knew what was happening. In the minors, hey, who's this guy? What's that guy? I never know who this guy was. And it was harder for me, like you said, in the college ranks, because you didn't really know what was coming at you here. But when you got into the pros, he thought it was easier for him once he went to that next level because he knew what to expect.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing here. I mean, you learn and you see what guys can do. And But here the difference is that the guy's going to guard me. Depending upon how he guard me, I'm going to react. I'm going to do something there. I knew what I wanted to do offensively, and it didn't matter whether he was a pro player or the other guy. But in college, they're playing, boxing ones, trying two people double. I mean, in the pros, I had one guy. I mean, I just wish that I had the athleticism because I knew I could beat the guy guarding me most of the time. But the thing is, I had to worry about, Bill Russell. I had to worry about Will Chamberlain. I had to worry about, Walt Bellamy. I had to worry about these other guys because I couldn't go in and jump over the next guy. First guy and trick the second guy.
All right. Hey, Rick, how's the pickleball game coming?
Pickleball is great. I'm so proud. I'm proud of myself. Actually, I went to the U.S. Open and I won the Triple Crown in my age and skill level. I won men's singles, doubles, men's doubles, and mixed doubles. So I won the Triple Crown at the U.S. Open.
Man, so I could just see it here. The NBA championship, Larry O'Brien trophy here, and Rick's got the pickleball championship here. I wonder what means more to you right now and where you are in your life. I'm thinking the pickleball's right there. It's got some pushes. I would say it pushes the Larry O'Brien trophy over, but I don't know, Rick. That's got to mean a lot to you there, man.
No, it means a lot to me, but it never means as much to me as playing. I mean, I was playing at the highest level possible in one of the major sports in the world. I mean, the pickleball is becoming big time now, but I'm very proud of what I'm able to accomplish. You always have to have goals. My goal was to win some major titles, which I was able to do. And then I decided to go for singles so I can do the Triple Crown. And in my first try, I was able to accomplish that. So I'm going to try it 2 more times later in the year in the World Seniors that they have in Utah. In St. George, it's the Huntsman World Senior Games, and then I'm going to try it again in the USA Pickleball National Championships in Mesa, Arizona, in November. So I'm looking forward to seeing if I can manage to pull it off again.
I love it, Rick. Tell folks what you're working on and where they can find you, please.
Thanks to my partners, though, Fred Shuey in the men and Sue Michaels in the women's were the ones that were my partners. So the octogenarians came through.
Tell the website, throw it out there for folks so they can find it because you're doing a ton of stuff. I'm sure of it. No,
I don't have a particular website and stuff, but if people are interested in medicilleaf.com, and you can put it out there again, medicilleaf.com, and go to GoSleeves.com, GOSLEEVES.com, and AlloMD.com. All of those have amazing products that I use on a regular basis. A lot of it's cannabinoid based, and if you put the code RB, small RB24 in there, you get a substantial discount. But the day doesn't go by. I never play pickleball without my Go Sleeves, and we got a lot of football players, runners, and everybody. Go Sleeves with kinesio tape built into them. Amazing product. And the other stuff is all cannabinoid based. And if you go to AlloMD, it's Ultra Repair X is one of the products that's there. But the code is good for a discount on any of the products there. So check them out.
Thank you so much, Rick, for your breakdown. I really appreciate your time always. God bless, Rick. Good luck to you, too, in those events. Thank you, my friend.
Pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye.
You got it. The great and Hall of Famer, Rick Barry. Appreciate him doing that for us there. Please hit the like button. We will reset. Bunch of topics still to hit on. Philly Godfather also at 5:30. Please hit the like button. Xander, hang on before we go to timeout. Where are we right now in the likes? Where are we? We were at 118 at last check. We're trying to get to 300 here. Come on, folks. We're at 147, man. We're halfway. Okay, we got 2 hours left. So we're halfway through the show. Okay, we need another 150. 145 will do it. We'll do it. All right? Hit the like button. Keep it here. National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.